Hey, I want to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be an author of one of our upcoming books, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today is a very special episode. We're bringing on Leanne Schwalp, who is a new author and a new member of our Mission Matters community, and she's also a partner over at Amphora Consulting. Leanne, just want to say welcome to the show.
Thank you, Adam. I'm so excited to be here and to work with you.
All right, Leanne. So I'm excited to get into the content today. We'll definitely talk just a little bit about what we're going to present in the upcoming book and your writing, but we won't go too far. Just for everybody watching, just so you know, we will be bringing Leanne back onto the show to do a part 2 of this 2-part interview. But before we get into the main content, let's start this episode the way that we start them all, with our Mission Matters Minute. So, Leanne, we at Mission Matters, we amplify stories for entrepreneurs, executives, and experts. That's our mission. Leanne, what mission matters to you?
Thank you, Adam. And that is one of the main reasons that I worked with you, that you start every podcast with this question. So the main mission that matters to me, and I believe that it has always mattered to me, I've just been able to frame it a little bit differently as I get older, which is all about human rights. And so allowing everyone to have access to freedom of thought, freedom of education, access to water, and the resources to do those things. And everything that I do on a day-to-day basis really tries to enable those things. And that's why I support the nonprofits that I do. That's why I work so hard in the business that I have, so that I can enable human rights, especially for women and girls across the STEM community.
Yeah, it's great, and it's a great reason why we're happy to welcome you into our Mission Matters community and to get your message out there to the world. So great to have you on. And I guess just to get us kicked off, before we get into maybe the business side and Amphora Consulting, like, where did all this begin for you? Like, how did you get started in your career and in business?
Yeah, so it was pretty early on. I mean, I can remember sitting at my dining room table as a teenager and knowing that I really just loved that my brother was a computer scientist and what he was doing. And I loved what astronauts were doing. Sally Ride was a poster on the wall in my bedroom for a very, very long time. And I knew that I wanted to be in science. My physics teacher was one of the alternates for the Challenger. Wow. And I'm so thankful that he actually didn't make it on for obvious reasons, right? But he inspired me to believe that I could do anything that I wanted. And so I think very early on, I knew that I wanted to solve problems. Quickly thereafter, it was really hard getting an engineering degree. I wish I could say that it was easy. There's a lot of really smart people out there. I'm average smart. I had to work really hard to become an engineer. But I became one, and then I figured out that solving problems and working in the business space was so exciting. Like, you could start to marry technology with business and work with customers and clients and figure out how to bridge that gap. And I just loved it, and I thrived. So the first company that I worked for, I was the 5th employee there, and just quickly matured through that whole business process. And fast forward now, 20 some years later, being a partner at Amphora Consulting, it's like a dream come true. I just feel like it marries technology with business in the most perfect way. So I feel like I have the best career that a person could ask for.
Now I know one of your passions is STEM, of course, and also, when I think about when you started, and let's just say the landscape and women participation and becoming things like engineers and we're really working heavily in tech, like the numbers weren't quite as high as they are now, but we still have a long way to go. So as you're kind of out there telling your story and giving your message, what are some of the things that you would say to maybe the next group of young entrepreneurs and young women that are entering the workforce or even in their education as they're considering STEM careers?
Yeah, so I have a slightly different message than a lot of folks have, and that's because I wasn't the smartest person in the room all the time. And when you go into fields like engineering and physics and science, you feel like you have to be the best as a female. However, there are a lot of people that are average in those fields and they still have exceptionally amazing careers, right? And so my piece of advice is, especially for women who are type A and who work really hard, is that you don't have to be a straight A student. You don't have to do it perfectly. You have to just learn and grow and apply yourself, and the rest is going to come together. I feel like when you are a minority in a field, whether that's women or because you're a person of color or any of those things, you feel like you have to be the best, and you don't. You have to just do it and then apply those principles going forward. And I can still remember calling my mother, and I was probably a junior or senior in college, and saying, I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm getting a C in this class. I feel like I'm not good enough. And she was like, just get your degree. And that was the best advice that I ever got, because I was so focused on, why am I not a straight A student any longer? Well, when things are hard, you can't be a straight A student. But now I am an amazing problem solver. I am a great connector for people. And I'm so glad that I never gave up on that vision. And I want other people to keep going, even if you are not perfect at it. You have to just apply yourself. Tenacity goes a long way.
Oh, I love your message on this, because this is something that I talk about quite often when it comes to being an entrepreneur. And I mean, I always use myself as an example, and I kind of pick up myself, and I'm like, I didn't have all this figured out, thinking, okay, I'm going to do podcasting. I'm going to, publish books, all these other things. I didn't have all this figured out when I set out on my entrepreneurial journey. And if I would have had that unrealistic pressure of, I had to be the next Elon Musk, I mean, oh my gosh, what kind of weight would that be to put on anyone's shoulders, right? But if you think about, like, what if it's something that you want to do, that you like to do, so whether it's a career in STEM, whether it's being an entrepreneur, whether it's a combination, or whatever you want to do, I mean, it's really, in my mind, it's kind of like you out there exploring, regardless of what age you are or what level of your career, but you out there exploring and figuring out what matches how you want to make a difference with your skill set in the world, right?
100%. I completely agree. And I think this is so important, because there's so much pressure on especially teenagers now, right? To be in sports, to be in school government, to be top of their class, to get into all the best schools. But actually, then as adults, we have to unlearn those things and figure out how to practice health, practice meditation, practice relaxing and sitting down once a while and not being busy all the time, right? And so I think this is really important for us to be sharing with the younger generation, because you don't have to be perfect. You just have to live and apply yourself and find that happiness inside of you.
Fantastic. Let's jump around a little bit here, Leanne. So, Amphora Consulting. So you're in your career. You had to have a successful career going, and at some point, Amphora Consulting comes into the mix. Tell us more about how that introduction took place.
It's such a cool story. So I was the vice president of business development and sales at Battelle, which is the largest nonprofit contract research company in the US. So it was an amazing place to work. And during that time, Amphora came in as one of our providers of, how do you do a market-backed strategy? How do you actually bring technology to the market in a more systematic way? And how do you collect voice of the customer? How do you do market segmentation? All of the things that are so important. What we were really good at was making technology. With enough dollars and smart people, you can solve any problem. That doesn't mean you can sell it, right? We could make a $2,000 pencil. That doesn't mean anyone's actually going to buy it. And so I worked with Jeff, who's the managing partner of Amphora, and his team for, over 6 or 7 years, essentially.
Wow.
And brought their program in. I was a steward of what they did. I loved it. And at one point in time, all of the stars aligned, and they were looking for their fourth partner. and I was looking for a career transition. And so I joined them to kind of take Amphora to the next step, because the managing partner and the other partners have been with the organization for over 20 years. And so they were looking to say, okay, how do we continue to extend this? And so I'm joining the team to bring some of that to them and continue to apply this. And our main focus is for B2B companies. So how do you do strategic marketing in business to business? And I tell you, Adam, I mean, it's just amazing. You wake up every day and get to apply things that you love working on and work with some of the smartest people in the world. It's just such an amazing opportunity.
Oh, it sounds amazing. And let's go further into Amphora Consulting. So what do you think maybe differentiates the firm from maybe some other consulting firms in the space?
I think the biggest thing that differentiates us is that we are a boutique consulting firm. So there are a lot of really large consulting firms where there's tens of thousands of employees. There's a handful of us. But what does that mean? That means that we all have experience in doing this work and applying it, and we're the ones that do the work for our customers. So you're not paying for junior consultants or junior team members. The people who have done the work are actually doing your work for you. And that's really what differentiates us. The second piece is we really focus on growth. So we're not doing this to, just check a box or finish a program. Our goal is success. So how do we make these companies grow? And we have countless examples of where we have done this year over year. And what that really does is it gives us confidence in not only doing the next program, but talking to other customers about helping them, because we've done it before. We know how to apply it. And it's a small team. So the thing that I love the most about this job, which I think you will appreciate, because I have a feeling that Mission Matters is very similar, is I don't have 40 hours a week of meetings. I have less than 2 to 3 hours of internal meetings, and all of the other time is spent serving our customers to help them grow and make more money, which is really exciting. That's where the rubber meets the road, right?
Yeah, that is exciting. And that is a big part of what we do here. So we operate, and our main thing is how do we get as much content out and tell the most meaningful stories we can and help our clients do the same. So that's exactly how we operate. We're definitely not sitting around talking about it. We're doing. Tell us about maybe some of the industries that Amphora Consulting focuses on. I know, like automotive, chemicals. Like, tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so we would always say that Grassroots Strategy, which is our flagship program, and we have a book about that our managing partner, Jeff Bennett and Darren Fleming, wrote. And it talks all about how you can take technology to the marketplace and focus on voice of the customer, value selling, value pricing, all of those, market segmentation, all of those things. That can be applied to any industry. So we don't focus just on automotive or chemicals. We can do that for anything. So right now, I have clients that are in the automotive space, in the electric vehicle space, a chemical company, as well as an organization that works in, large industrial equipment. And so it's depth and breadth, right? So the process works no matter what industry you're in. It's about the team that wants to work with you to make sure that they're willing to apply it. The biggest hurdle that we ever have is, oh, we've done that, or we've tried that, or we don't need your help, right? And so it's the openness to be willing to think about these market problems in a different way.
And how are you, like, obviously there's only so much, and there's a full book, Grassroots Strategy, as you mentioned, and we'll put the links to that in the show and the show notes, of course, because I definitely want our audience to check out that book, and then they can do really a deep dive into the model and the strategy, but maybe keeping it a little bit high level today. Tell us a little bit more about the model and really how you're getting results for your clients.
Yeah, and I cannot take credit for this. So this is where I love joining an organization that has already had the system in place, and they have proven it time and time again. So I just want to make that very clear that the partners before me really laid the groundwork for this. But we start with, what is the problem that you can solve? And then what is the market that you want to address with that? And how do you define that market? And then that moves into, what is the segmentation of that market? And one of the best examples that our managing partner has used for years is the dog food market, right? So you think about dog food, a decade or so ago, and it was all about how do you sell dog food to small dogs, large dogs, old dogs, puppies,
Yeah.
right? That market completely changed. Someone was smart enough to say, actually, the person that buys dog food is not the dog, but rather the owner of the dog. So is it a working dog? Is it a dog that is your pet? Is it a dog that's actually your grandchild because you're an empty nester and you're willing to go to Target and buy food out of the refrigerator for the dog, right? So
Yeah.
really thinking about segmentation for market disruption and market penetration in a different way than what your competitors are doing. And that's the hardest part of the process that we do, and we love working on it. And then that quickly goes into what's your value proposition, as well as how are you going to price it and sell it, and then what's your business model. And so it's a soup to nuts process over the course of 90 days that we put companies through to really help them take the technology that they have and bring it to market.
Now, to go through this process, what are the types of companies? And I know industry, you're agnostic there. I know you mentioned, but does size play a factor? Like, is this for startups, enterprise only? Like, give us a feel for maybe the size of the type of companies that get the most value out of going through the process.
Yeah, so we really focus on wanting to help organizations change the culture that they have. So, what that means in terms of size is you can do it at any size of an organization. It just changes the scale of it. So, if you're a billion or multi billion dollar organization, you need to be sending multiple teams through the process at one point in time so that you can start to transition the technology. Because our main goal is to work ourselves out of a job. We don't want to work for you forever. We want to help you over the course of a series of programs, and then your team starts to have the knowledge, the language, so that this is embedded in your culture. If you scale that back and say that you're a startup, the value is just as good. It's just that it's probably one or two teams versus 5 or 6 teams at the larger organizations, and you're helping them early on. The challenge with the smaller companies is that you have to really be cognizant about the time commitment that it takes. In a small organization, as you know, as an entrepreneur, when you only have a handful of employees, you're asking for them to do extra work. However, when you do this work and you put the time in up front, you're going to be more successful in the long run. But we always explain that in the beginning. This is going to take time, but in the long run, you're going to be successful. One of my most favorite quotes that I get from companies that we work with, especially the smaller ones, is, "I wish we had done this sooner."
Yeah. Oh, I bet. And it sounds like one of those processes. And when you said when you're working with a smaller company, it's going to be time, it's going to be extra work, but it's long term, but even immediate term. I mean, I feel like can be a lot of results and a lot of breakthroughs, like even in the beginning, especially for those smaller companies, because sometimes just having that outside view of the way you're doing something, whether it's segmentation or going through the process of who your client is and what you're trying to accomplish. I feel like many times that's not necessarily done in the beginning when you think about a startup, even some funded startups that maybe have pivoted along the way because they're busy trying to deliver on their value proposition. And maybe they had that all mapped out, but maybe the market moved at them since they've been in execution, right?
Well, think about COVID, right? Think about how
Yeah.
many markets shifted significantly during such a big economic turn. And what we always say is that your strategy should be ready for COVID.
Yeah.
However, you just need to adjust your strategy. It doesn't mean you need to completely change it. You need to adjust it. You should be thinking about those things in advance and be ready to change that. So I completely agree with you. And it's really exciting when we get the best team members to go through the program. They're just sponges. They're just like, I've never thought about it this way. I want to
Yeah.
apply it. And then they can't wait to get out and talk to their customers, because that's the goal. You need to talk to, and when we say the word customer, that means someone that you're selling to today, someone that you've sold to in the past, or someone that you might want to sell to. So it's a very broad definition, and you need feedback from all of those folks in order to best grow.
Wonderful. We have a book coming out together, but before we get into that, you are already an author. You have a book out there called Perspectives. I'm not letting you off the show without talking about your book that you already have out there. For all my audience, I love nothing more than to promote other authors and podcasters out there to help them get their message out. So Perspectives, tell us a little bit more about that book.
Oh, goodness. I feel like that was just, as you know, you've lived it numerous times. It was the first section of a book that I wrote, which was no small feat. And I learned a lot through the process, but I love the content of that book and I still stand by it. So Perspectives was written by 3 women who were Smart Business Award winners in Cleveland, Ohio. And the focus of the book was to combine our thoughts of each of those. And for mine, it's all about authenticity in the workplace. And I started doing that research after having a conversation with someone at a diversity, equity, and inclusion conference many of years ago. I would have to say probably over a decade ago. And this woman said something to me that has stuck with me and I think will forever stick with me. And she said, I work in an organization where it isn't okay for me to put a picture of my family on my desk because I'm married to another woman and we have children from different ethnic backgrounds, and that would not be accepted at the corporation I work for. And it really hit home for me because although I'm a woman in STEM, in general, I'm Caucasian. I, can blend in with the best of them, And it really hit home for me that this person felt like they couldn't bring their whole self to work. So Perspectives for me was authenticity in the workplace and how we can create environments for everyone to bring their best self to work, whatever that means, whether that's about religion or about, your gender or the people that you love in life or your children, right? And really creating an environment so that there aren't roadblocks for you emotionally so that you can focus on work. And when people are happy at work, when they feel included at work, when they feel like they belong, they're going to perform better for you. And so I did 3 years of research on this topic to include surveying over 250 people about what they felt like inclusion and belonging in the workplace really meant. And so that's what authenticity in the workplace is. And that's my section in Perspectives. And I love the work. It includes an authenticity checklist because I know myself, at least, I have had to use that on a regular basis to make sure that every day I am bringing my authentic self to work and to my family. And how do you really monitor that? Because it's interesting. It's sort of like a line that can start to shift and you don't know it's shifting until it's too late. So this checklist is meant to say, let's get ahead of the shifting of the line so that you can be happy and connected. And with all of the mental health issues that exist in the world today, I think it's even more important than it was a decade or 2 ago.
Is there anything, so I find, and I always tell, individuals and that's your first book. So I always tell individuals, I say, everybody has a story in them and you want to get out there. You want to tell that story, whether it's book form, whether it's podcast, whether it's a blog, like, I don't care. But the thing is that the more you tell your story and share with others, the more that you give permission to others to know, hey, they're not alone. Like there's other people going through this and maybe good things that you're going through, maybe bad things and everything in between. So the main thing is to get out there and to share your story. But I am a publisher and I'm a marketer. So maybe I may sound a little bit biased on my evangelism there, even though I want everybody to write a book and tell their story. So I always like to bring, when I have a first-time author on the line, I like to ask them, is there something that maybe you discovered or learned through that book writing process, either about yourself or about anything else that you're like, wow, I'm really glad I went through this?
Oh, that's a long list. I mean, I think the first step is being willing to say I'm writing a book or I'm writing a section of a book, right? Like that's a big, bold statement to make to your family and friends, but it also creates the commitment for you to follow through and finish it, right? So I would say that's number one. It's really scary to get started. But then number two, the process could never end if you choose not to put deadlines around it. So I could still be writing authenticity in the workplace for perspectives if I didn't have a really great publisher who held me to a timeline into that phase, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's number two, is really honoring the fact that it's not perfect. It has to be good, and you have to feel confident about where you're going, but you can't work on it forever. And then I think the biggest growth period that I had, and I still remember clicking the email when you do the final review of the content and you email your publisher and you say, yes, you can print this, because your words, your thoughts, your philosophies are going to be in print forever. And you just hope that someone will read it, but it's still really scary that you're putting that down in paper and that you're saying, okay, this is good to go. My thoughts can no longer change. And you just hope that you haven't written anything that you would regret or that you would want to change going forward, and not in a bad way, just in a, we evolve over time. And so it's a really big growing experience to push that button and say, okay, I'm good with this.
Yeah. Well, speaking of being in print forever, the book we have together coming out. So and I'm not holding to this. I know we're still in the development phase and the editing side of things. So it's all not done and set in stone, so to speak, yet. But keeping it high level and knowing that I'm going to be bringing you back onto the show to do a deep dive once the book is actually live. But keeping it high level, what are some of the things that you hope to present in the upcoming book?
Oh my goodness. I am so excited about what I have written in this book. I feel like it really combines part of what I wrote about authenticity in the workplace, but it combines the TED Talk that I did about leaving a legacy of the life that you want. And it really uses some symbolism that I'm not going to share right now, but maybe we can talk about next time about what that really means. And it dovetails into the conversation you and I were having earlier about how our children today really have to unlearn how to stop being busy all the time and stop feeling like they have to do everything, and really take care of yourself. I feel like as I have grown in maturity and age, which happens, right, that you really learn what are the most important things that you should be doing and how to take care of yourself. And they're actually the things that have been around for centuries, meditating and exercising, moving your body, eating green foods versus processed foods. And while that can all sound cliche, it's actually where the foundation of happiness is in my mind. It's not about stuff. It's not about, your title. It's actually about how you care for yourself on a daily basis. And I bought a hot tub not that long ago, which sounds crazy in light of what I just said. But my rationale in explaining this is, I've had a lot of surgeries. I've had back surgery. I have a shoulder surgery, and things that just my body needs taken care of, right? But I sit in that hot tub for only about 10 minutes every day, and I'm able to look at the birds, see the squirrels, and just kind of take in nature before I start my day. And it just changes my perspective, because we're just this little tiny speck in this big world. There's so much more going on, and it just really helps me remember that. And it helps keep my body out of having lots of, tension in it. So it's helpful for that too.
All right, I'm cutting you off there. That's enough. You gave enough of a teaser. I'm sold. Well, I was sold, and that's why I wanted to publish in the first place. But I'm cutting you off there. All right, new topic. So seriously, though, Leanne, it has really been a pleasure having you on the show today. Getting to know more about you and Fora Consulting, of course, and really just your walk and your journey in life and in business. That being said, I know you got a lot going on in Fora Consulting. You got this new book coming up with us as well. I mean, what's next? What's next for you? What's next for your career?
I'm just so excited about the future. I actually, in the next 30 days, I'm moving to Virginia, which I'm really excited about. I get to be in the hub. Yes, the defense and aerospace industry, and I'm super excited about that. And I also hope what's next is a little teaser that I would love to stop writing sections of books and write a full book about, living an authentic and legacy-driven life. And so I feel that coming on the cusp, and I'm saying it out loud because I want to hold myself accountable. And then on top of that, I just hope that I can continue to do good for the world. So I really focus on giving to charities that focus on human rights and access for women and girls to get education. And I just hope that I can do lots of things to enable that going forward. I really love working hard and enabling myself to provide for others because I have been gifted so much from amazing people. And I would even consider your team to be one of those. The last few months of working with your team, they have been so supportive and so amazing. And I just want to pay that forward to other people because there are so many exceptional people out there.
Oh, it's great, and it's wonderful to hear. And I know they're watching and listening too. So I'm glad. I know my team is into it as well as we are with all of our authors and really helping them get their story out there. But that being said, if somebody is watching this or listening to this and they want to learn more about Amphora Consulting or to follow your journey, I mean, what's the best way for them to get more information?
Yeah, Amphora Consulting is really simple. amphoraconsulting.com. And then if you want to hear more about what I'm doing, it's leanneschwab.com. Very simple. And then all of the links to our social media pages are on those websites. So you can just click there.
Wonderful. And we'll put those websites into the show notes so that our audience could just click on the links and head right on over. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters or engaging in an episode or listening to something on the platform, we're all about bringing on business owners, entrepreneurs, executives, and experts and having them share their mission, the reason behind their mission, really what gets them fired up to get out there in the marketplace and the workforce and to make a difference. If that's the type of content that sounds interesting or fun or exciting to you, we welcome you. Hit that subscribe button because we have many more mission-based individuals coming up on the line and we don't want you to miss a thing. And Leanne, until the next time, it really was a pleasure working with you today. I can't wait till we get to do the next one.
Thanks, Adam. You're amazing.